You'll soon be cutting less and quilting more. Hello, I'm Deborah Rubles. I live in Lebanon, Missouri. I'm the author of The Quilter's Cutting Guide, The Sliding Ruler Method. This book was published in May of 2017. And if you follow the techniques and the instructions in the book, you'll soon be cutting less and quilting more. Today I'm going to use this cutting tool, also a cutting book, to cut out 2 5/8 strips, 2 5/8 inches strips for a Quilt of Valor project. Now I have my fabric already prepared. I have it pressed, and I have the cutting instructions pinned to it. So I'll take the pin out, and then the cutting instruction says to cut 7 2 5/8 strips. The cutting instructions I stick under the cutting mat so I can see it and it won't blow away. And then when you put the fabric on the cutting mat, now I have this fabric folded in half like it comes off the boat, and then I fold it in half again. I also fold it in from the right because I like to keep it manageable. I don't like working with real big pieces of fabric, and you work with smaller pieces. So the first thing before we even think about cutting, we need to get a square edge. And I am going to actually bring it over this much because there's a notch cut out of the fabric up at the top. And I'm using a 2 ruler method to square my edge. And the 2 ruler method is explained in chapter 2 of the Quilter's Cutting Guide. As you can see, I'm done. It's already square. Now I need to cut out 7 2 5/8 strips. So to do that is when you pick up the Quilter's Cutting Guide and you turn to the 2-inch tab, and then you turn the pages until you find 2 5/8 up at the top. So we keep going. It's 2 5/8. Now I need to cut 7 strips. This first column is a number of strips that you need, So we're saying we need 7 strips. So this starts with 5. So we'll cut 5, then we'll cut 2 more. So 5, and you go across and it says cut on 13 1/8. Now the thing about this book, this is where I've done the math for you. You don't have to do any of the calculations. You just have to be able, though, to find 13 1/8 on your ruler. So what you do is you find 13 1/8 on your big ruler, and then you line up that measurement on that straight edge that you just cut. So I'm lining up 13 1/8 on the square edge. I'm also lining up a dark line at the bottom of the ruler on the fold. So then we have our 2 points for our straight cut, and then I cut. Then all you do is simply go down the chart, go to the next number, it's 10 1/2. So you slide the ruler over and you put the 10 1/2 on that straight edge, square edge. 10 1/2. I'm also watching to make sure that the line's on the fold at the bottom. Next number is 7 7/8. So you slide it over to 7 7/8. And now whenever I get to the 7/8, I go to the next number up. So 7 7/8, go to the 8, and then back off 1. That's the easiest way to do it. So I'm at the 8. The 8 is lined up my straight edge. I'm moving it over 1, so I'm now at the 7 7/8. Then I've got to slide it over to the 5 1/4 and cut. And then the last one is 2 5/8 and cut. So there's my 1 2 3 4. There's my 5 strips. Now we need 2 more strips. This is for a Quilt of Valor project. And I will go ahead and bring this over. And then you may or may not have to square again. It depends on how much you shuffle the fabric around. But I can see I am going to go ahead and square it again using the 2 ruler method. I make it look easy. It could be easy for you too. You just have to practice it a little bit. Okay, now we only want 2 strips. So number of strips needed here. You go down to 2 and you go across. It says cut on 5 1/4. So we're going to find the 5 1/4 or 5 1/4 on the ruler and put that on that straight edge. And at the same time, I'm lining up a line on the fold at the bottom, and then you cut. The next number and the last is 2 5/8. I'm at 2 5/8 and cut. And there we have our 7 strips done in no time at all. The thing about the instructions and the technique in the Quilter's Cutting Guide is it takes about half the time of the other way that many quilters cut. So that's your cutting snippet today from Deborah Rubles, author of The Quilter's Cutting Guide. You can purchase this book at www.quilterscuttingguide.com. Thank you.